That's a gay-ass podcast.
What? That's a gay-ass podcast. A what? A really, really, really gay podcast that we call That's a Gay-Ass Podcast.
That's a gay-ass name for a gay-ass podcast.
Welcome back to That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, the podcast that asks, whose fault is it that you're gay? It is me, Eric Williams, and this week we've got Brandon Rogers on the podcast. That is right, the creative powerhouse himself. He has over 7 million subscribers on YouTube and has worked on countless videos, sketches, and projects, and the audience that is obsessed with Brandon is huge, and they're very queer and also very straight. We support you all. In this interview, we talk about his show, Hell of a Boss. We talk about the time he dated a girl and her twin brother. And we also get into a rousing debate between Tumblr porn and Twitter porn. Plus, I asked Brandon about the celebrities with whom he has shared a joint. Y'all, category is gay ass excellence, so please enjoy this ep with Brandon Rogers. Brandon Rogers is on That's a Gay-Ass Podcast, looking absolutely stunning with this gorgeous set decoration. Brandon, how are you doing on this gay-ass day?
Oh, it's a very gay day. I woke up with the gay sun right in my eyes, and I thought to myself, I'm going to go on a gay podcast. It doesn't get any better than this. And look at this weather we're having. Are you where I live?
I'm in California.
So you're experiencing this as well.
Can I tell you a secret? Is that I'm actually recording this from Palm Springs, where I don't normally live. Are you mad at me for bringing that up?
Yeah, you fucking homo, because I wish I was in Palm Springs. I wish I was there. Hey, look, if you're in Palm Springs, life is good. No one is there because they have to be there.
Wow.
You know what I mean? If someone says, I can't do it, I'm in Palm Springs. Yeah, you can do it. You just don't want to because you're in Palm Springs. I think that it's a privilege to be in Palm Springs. That's where I go to escape.
That's exactly what I'm doing. So my man had a few, like, what do you call it when you have a real job and they give you days off, but they pay you for it?
PTO, you believe that shit?
Thank you. So he has PTO that he needed to use. And so we decided, why not book a little house? And it happens to be our 5-year wedding anniversary.
Oh my
and
God.
So we had a nice dinner last night. And I, of course, studied the bald daddy at the table across the way and said to myself, do I want to fuck or do I just like his hairy forearms?
You know what? Bald men with hairy forearms, that's a vibe.
Oh, yeah. I don't know. I've always been into a daddy, but there's something about a bald and then either a beard or a hairy forearm combo that really jerks my gurk.
Yeah, you could see them operating the handles of a tractor.
Oh my God, that's exactly it. It harkens back to a time of cornfields. They don't have hair, so they can't have cornrows. But I do want to immediately get into a question for you, which is one of your videos that I'm beyond obsessed with. And can we just butter your biscuit by saying the fact that you are on this podcast makes me feel, yes, gayer, but also a part of your magique. You are such an incredible creator. And one of your videos, the title is I Get Roasted by My Characters.
Yes.
I can't even begin to imagine how much work went into this because you had to record yourself in about 4,000 different characters.
That was insane. It took my assistant. That was the first video that my assistant, who I still work with now, he and I shot that together. The first thing we ever did, and I said, I want to shoot a video. It's going to take 24 hours to shoot. And he buckled down and did it. We started rolling at like noon, and then we stopped filming at noon the next day, and we didn't sleep. It was a 24-hour shoot. Yeah, and that's how I knew he was the real deal.
And that's how also you know like how much work and sometimes sacrifice it takes to make shit as good as you do, because anyone who is any type of creator knows it takes a lot of work to do anything, but at the level you're doing it is cuckoo. But one of the characters that is roasting yourself says, over the years you've gotten so fucking gay, incels had to exist just to keep the balance. Now, brilliant line, but Brandon, what would you say is the gayest thing that you've done this week?
Oh, the gayest thing I've done this week. Does it have to involve men? Because I feel like that's low-hanging fruit.
No, it can involve anything you want.
Then probably an orgy. I'm just kidding. No, what's the gayest thing I did this week? I had dinner with my brother and we caught up and talked about our feelings.
And is your brother a part of the hetero persuasion?
Yeah, he is. So that's what makes it so gay. I had to spend time with a straightie. But
Wait, what gave him the right or the ability to talk about his feelings? Because a lot of straight men can't do that.
I know. I don't know what it is. I think he's got a little bit of queer in him. You know, if he's cut from the same pussy cloth that I was snipped from, he's got to have a little bit of fag somewhere deep down in his body. I don't know. I will say, part of what I meant when I said that I've gotten gayer over the years is that I really I look at who I surrounded myself with 10 years ago, and I surrounded myself with a lot of straight people, not intentionally. I just happen to have a lot of straight friends. And now I can't think of the last straight person who helped me work on a project.
Wow.
Like all my stuff is, I mean, if you walk onto one of my sets, it feels like a low budget pride porn or something, just like really shitty camera equipment and lights and all gays everywhere. And it smells weirdly like sweat on most sets, mostly actually because we share sets with actual porns.
That would bring the comparison, but I don't think you're alone in that. I think that a lot of us, like the older that queer people get, tend to find ourselves more. But here's a question about this, because I'm also in a gay chapter. My first, let's say, okay, I'm 35. So like all of my 20s, I had some gay friends, but skewed more straight. And then I moved to a new city, created new community, and it's all gay people. Mm-hmm. Do you think that straight people who witness some of their gay friends cultivating these gay circles, do you think I've had a friend who experienced, she is no longer a close friend of mine, which is a big bummer, but she was sort of feeling like she was like left out or like, not a part of the equation, and then got pissed that she wasn't a part of the quote unquote community. Do you find that any of your straight people in your lives have felt resentful, or how do you figure out how to like maintain the straight people that are forever friends while also cultivating the gays?
Well, first of all, I don't spend any time entertaining them if they feel upset that they're not included in a queer group. Queer, the literal definition of the word queer, means to be different from the majority of people. So she felt excluded. Welcome to every single day of our life. For straight people to say that, oh, you're excluding us from your gay cliques, is very, I don't know. I mean, to tell any group of people that aren't the majority, hey, you're leaving us out, is kind of ass backwards. Part of any group of any group of people most of us are joined together through shared experiences or shared traumas. Mm-hmm. A lot of my queer friends, we share very similar backgrounds or can relate to certain ways that life can sting a queer person. And I just think that I have some friends too who get upset that they're not part of like this gay group that goes out and like joins our gaggle for cocktails in West Hollywood. It's like, first of all, you wouldn't. It's a friend mix that very rarely works a lot of the time. But also, I don't know. I'm constantly feeling excluded. I mean, my whole life, I grew up brown, fat, and gay in a rich, white, affluent town. I did not fit in with anybody. So the idea that my queerness that I've worked so hard to accept and to surround myself with a found family, to think that makes someone else feel excluded, who's part of a group that I've been feeling excluded from for so many years. It's just interesting. It is a bit, though. I don't think you're wrong. I think it is not only ass backward, but it feels almost like, talk about like my culture is not a costume. It's like you don't get to weaponize my otherness to make you feel othered when you are not, in fact, in the othered group. So it's almost like we work so hard to feel surrounded by people that support us and a part of a community, and then for people who are part of the majority to then feel pissed that they are excluded from our community, it feels like we're being punished yet again for being different, which is, I think, the same sting that we felt growing up. Oh, well, it's funny you mentioned that. I was at a con this weekend, and someone came up to, by the way, my first con in LA, and every weekend we go to a different city. I am surprised at how pushy and rude our own people are. I was very like, this city is very noticeably different from anywhere else, but there's particularly one person who, I've never been asked this by a fan, I've certainly never been told this before, but she comes up to me and she says, do you have any advice for someone who wants to become an actor, someone who's well known on the internet like you? And I said, well, I can't speak for everyone, but the way it worked for me was I just turned on a camera and I just started filming. And no one wrote me a check. If there's one person I have to thank, it's my fellow collaborators who have given me chance. I've never been like a major TV show or something where I have a producer to thank. So I told her, I said, look, just turn a camera on and make stuff, put it out there on the internet, build up a portfolio for people to see, and I'm sure someone will eventually the fish has to bite if you're persistent enough. And she says, well, that's easy for you to say. You're gay and a man. And I was like, well, and you're straight and white. I don't know why we're drawn, like, why are we, what does that have to do? And I told her, I said, if anything, me being, gay has only held me back. It's for so many years in my 20s, I wasn't given roles because, or if I was given an audition for something, it was like gay best friend,
right?
Or it's very reductionist. It really makes you feel like, oh, I'm only allowed to, or people would say like, you can't, you won't act if you don't speak Spanish, because anyone who looks at you is probably going to want to cast you in a role that requires you to speak Spanish. So if you don't have that bilingual thing, I'm like, white people were not told that in college. I was told that, that I have to speak Spanish, that I have to embrace being gay. It's a lot of what fueled me to do the characters I do now, because I get to play whoever I want, and I don't have to, worry about my skin color or my sexual orientation being a factor when I want to play an elite, businesswoman or a fucking a mailman, whoever. I don't limit myself like that. So to have someone come up to me and oh, well, easy for you. It's like, you're right. It is reversed kind of. It's like I'm still getting my sexuality thrown in my face, but from a different direction.
Well, that's the thing that really fucks with my head is when it's thrown at you as like a jab. It's like, sweetie pie, you do understand that everything I do is to celebrate and to actually go against the jab, and then for you to come to a con and then jab me. I mean, how did you respond to her? A straight woman being like, easy for you to say. I just
said it's only held me back. I said me being a gay man has never been something I've seen as a strength. Obviously, yeah, I get auditions for gay characters, but I don't think that being gay is. I honestly forget I'm gay until someone brings it up. To be totally frank, like I am very outwardly queer and very different, but I've always thought of myself as inherently weird. Not just my sexual orientation. That's just part of it. I don't see myself as I just happen to be a weirdo who's into men. And
you're weird first, you're gay second.
Right, and so when people say, well, you're gay, so that was easy for you. It does make me feel like I get the point she's saying, that like gay people are more profitable in Hollywood than arguably straight people, but I think it still goes. I really feel like we're still living in a time, and this is going to be a hot take, but I really still feel like Hollywood's gay, but it's like Billy Eichner gay, where I feel like, and I love Billy Eichner, don't get me wrong, but if a show is to go big, it's usually headlining a gay man for straight people.
Well, so there are still also actors, I won't name any out of respect for their journeys, but there are still actors who are cultivating giant careers, and they are gay in their personal lives, but they are not out still because of what?
Actor.
Hello? So like,
every actor
is fucking gay. So because we can still say that people who are trying to cultivate these mainstream careers are hiding the fact that they're gay. It's sure. Are we grateful as gay people, as queer people, that we have the tools to create things like a podcast, like a YouTube channel, like videos, like whatever it is, to show our own stories? Yes. Does it mean that the industry has completely solved the problem and that gay people are just as respected? No, it still is the gay best friend roles, or it's still people hiding the fact that they suck dick. I mean, there are big ones. There are big ones.
I feel like the people that are in mainstream media are the ones that straight people feel safe around. It's more Drag Race than it is Dragula. You know what I mean? Like, there's not many queerdos. It's all queers. And I'm not trying to, when I say these names, I'm not throwing them under the bus. I think any queer artist, we should all support each other. But I'm saying the ones that you see in primetime television still, it's the English teacher on FX. It's Simon. What is it? Simply Simon. I Love Simon. What the fuck is that movie?
Love Simon.
You know what I'm talking about. I Love Simon. These aren't really queer. I don't consider them super queer stories. They're just, other than the fact that they're into the same sex or into the same, it's like, it's I would love to see more queer weird characters normalized. A lot of the stuff
I think, I've brought the show up a lot on this podcast, but I think that's partly why the Oh Mary of Cola Scola's play in New York is creating all these waves, because Cole is, I think, what you're talking about. It's like beautifully queer and weird, and has always been so, but is now doing a play as Mary Todd Lincoln in drag on Broadway.
Which the interviews have been so hilarious. I've been seeing all the coverage. It's so funny.
I mean, it's just it's just like so fucking weird and wacky. And the fact that, like, so to plug, the director of that show did the podcast a few weeks ago, and it's just like to think about tourists from Ohio going to New York to see Cola Scola be in drag as like a maniacal, drugged out Mary Todd Lincoln. Like that is the weirdness that we love to see getting that platform.
What I love about Cole is that Cole normalizes it, and they're not like, isn't this weird that I'm being weird? Isn't this a weird clown thing that I'm doing? No, with Cole, it's a very normal. And I think when you tell the audience, hey, this is normal, they go along with it. With whether it's TV or film, I think if you confidently just tell a story from whatever perspective, it doesn't matter if the audience is or isn't that perspective, they'll go along with it, whether that's a straight story or a queer story or a weird queer story.
Yeah.
Hell of a Boss, the show that I'm in, it has a massive following from all shades of the sexual spectrum. I mean, everyone's, and no one, I've seen gay people, straight people, no one stops and enjoys the show specifically because it's queer and they talk about its queerness as much as they are talking about its story and the problems that the characters are going through. Because when we introduce a queer character, it's not about their tragic backstory, or they're not the smartest person in the room. They're not the one that's going to solve everything or the witty one. A lot of them go through problems that everyone goes through. And it would be nice just to see more characters like that are queer, and we don't have to stop and make it a big deal that they are queer. They could just be, and they don't have to be perfect either. I love the idea of a gay villain.
Just a quick shout out to Hell of a Boss. You are one of the main voices with Bryce Pinkham, Broadway girly, Alex Brightman, Broadway girly, and then guest voices were Jinx Monsoon did it, Barrett Wilbur Weed, for anybody who was a Heathers the musical stan. So it's like, you are sure you've created your own work, but you're now voicing these characters and doing these projects with, like, I mean, it's I think it goes to show you why your fans are asking you how to create their own careers, because you have built this from the ground up. It looks like your YouTube channel, I have seen it for obviously a million years, but it was 2006 you started it. That feels insane to me. That's like a long time ago.
It's weird because it serves as a diary of my life. Most people write, like, I don't know, in a journal, or you have like your photos on your phone that you could scroll through. I get to see videos and see how I looked and sounded and who I was hanging out with. It's so bizarre having a video catalog of, it's been about half my life now. I was 16 or 17 when I started my YouTube channel, and so here I am at 36. It is mind-blowing to see how things have just to see myself change both on the inside and the outside. I look so different throughout the years. It's so weird. I've been rail thin, I've been massive, I've had long hair, short hair, and I just see all my friends, and you see my relationships. I'm not super open about who I'm dating in real life, but I think almost all of my boyfriends at one point made an appearance in my videos, and so it is weird going back and like, oh, I dated that person.
Damn, to see video footage of my ex would definitely, I know that you probably are used to seeing so much footage because of all these years of creating, but if anybody listening right now is like, what if I could see a video of me with my ex, would you choose yes or no? That would be the question, because
I think yes.
I think it'd be interesting.
Well, only because it's important to not, I think it's important to remember all the good stuff in life. And I think even if things end terribly with someone, I think it doesn't take away from the genuine feelings you both could have been, feeling in that, at that time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. I like to look back. If I find old like love letters or photos of people that I have possibly, fallen out of love with, or they're no longer in my life, I still like to live in that moment, if only to hurt myself a little bit. That feeling of like, you had that once and you let it go.
That happened to me the other day. It happened to me where someone brought up the show Sleep No More, and one of the funniest, dumbest fights I had with my ex-boyfriend. He was obsessed with Sleep No More in New York. It was this immersive show. It was very dark, kooky. There was hot dancers, whatever. And my ex went like 13 times. And he came back after one of the times, and one of the cast members, one of the witches, one of the boy witches, kissed him. And I was like 20 years old. So knowing a 20-year-old gay kindergarten date age, like I dating wise didn't know anything. So of course we had this giant fight about it. Now in hindsight, it's like, listen, if a hot boy witch at Sleep No More grabs you by the face and kisses you, that I would have leaned in. But it is interesting to look back at those chapters. And with this idea of looking back, Brandon, we could talk for truly hours. But yet I have to ask you the famous podcast question. And
What's
Brandon, that question is, whose fault is it that you're gay? Who do we blame, babe?
God. Probably Mortal Kombat. I remember. Well, here's the thing. Actually, I'm glad you asked that. I don't know many people who started off straight, and I distinctly know that when I was a child, I was into women heavily. I mean, I was so hot for Xena and Sailor Moon, all the Disney princesses, and it was really when I was starting to go through puberty, like maybe a year or two before I went through puberty, that I started looking at men in media, very hyper, like sexualized men, specifically in like fighting games. Anytime they were ripped or like, it made me feel a certain kind of way. And I remember being about 10 years old, being like, I remember being at the store and there was a guy behind the register. And I remember thinking as a little kid, I'm like, well, if I was into guys, that would be the kind of guy that I like. That's probably my first gay thought that I could remember having.
If I was into guys.
I was, like hypothetically, and I distinctly remember, I must have been around 8, 9, or 10, somewhere around there. But I remember thinking this about him. And he was a guy that was probably a few years old. He looked like some teenager working the register. But I just remember, to a kid, teenager is like, he's this older guy, right? But I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's a really pretty older guy. But I like girls.
I'm picturing skater haircut. I'm picturing. Remember when
yes,
we were?
It was a blonde Bieber-ish thing.
There you go, a little swoop.
Yep.
So
he
if you
kind of
were
looked
into guys,
yeah, he kind of looked like the guy from The Simpsons who always helps like customer service. Who kind of dogs like this? That guy. That's what he looked like. All right. And so, yeah. And then as I got older, I remember going into middle school, and when you go into middle school, you start introducing the locker room in PE, and you're seeing other guys changing. And that also made me feel a certain kind of way. But then they would all have like straight porn in their lockers, and I would have to pretend like I was into that. Yeah, as I got older and older, by the end of high school, I wasn't into girls anymore. I distinctly remember, and I dated a lot of girls in high school too. I had probably 4 or 5 girlfriends throughout my whole time in high school. I'm not kidding. Did you physically ever feel when you made out with them that it felt yummy, and did it go further, or did your body reject the feelings? A couple of them. Now there's 5 girls that I dated. And so like the first 2 and 2.5, I was really into it physically. And as I got older, I noticed myself not into it as much. And then the last girl that I dated was more of just like, I think for appearance. I think I dated her because I needed to have a girlfriend, because everyone had a boyfriend or girlfriend, everyone was hitched with someone. So it was senior year, you don't want to graduate single. And so I was with the girl for all the wrong reasons that year. I even did a video recently where I went back as one of my characters to apologize to one of my ex-girlfriends, and she has a kid and everything now. I went to her house. It was the weirdest thing.
Was it your actual ex?
Yeah, from high school. Yeah.
Holy shit. Okay, I of course I'm thinking about my ex who I dated for the wrong reasons, and I always sent her positivity and like healing because I was just too young to know what that would have done to a person. But I think I'm so far on the gay spectrum that I never was able to physically be into women. And I love to see your journey where you were like in a certain gray area of the spectrum, but then sort of your dial sort of like gay.
Yeah, I was dating or seeing, I guess, a girl in high school at one point, and then she had a twin brother, and I started seeing him a few years later. That was weird. And I noticed girls and boys kiss very similarly. At least in high school, I noticed that. I thought it would be this massive difference, like, oh, boys are gonna kiss like this. And it was.
I thought you were first gonna say how you could feel the family resemblance in the way that they use their tongue, but it's more.
You know what? I will say it is weird because when you're this close to someone and you're kissing them, certain features, it's like, oh wow, you do kind of look like your sister. Oh my god, like yeah, that was a very straight. I think after I hooked up with the brother, that's when I knew. I was like, okay, I'm gay.
Wow. I love the gay origin stories, especially when it comes to actually like the dating and the hooking up, because it is always like a hero's journey of finding out, oh, if I were gay, oh wait, I'm actually like, do you disagree?
Well, certain people stop at different points after realizing it. Certain people go, oh no, I'm gay. Oh, I better keep this hidden. Or some people go, oh no, I'm gay. Well, what does this come with? Oh, who are my friends? Who, like, you start building people lean into it or they lean away from it. I think both have a hotness to it, honestly. But I'm just happy that I moved to LA and I moved out of a pretty conservative area that I grew up in, and coming here, it honestly didn't feel like my life even started until I got to LA. I was about 23 when I moved here, and that really, it felt like I was finally among people who got it, who are weirder than me. It felt nice not being the weirdest person in town, and being around.
How did you do that though? Like this is as a person who wants to create and put things out, I have had to suffer through a lot of self-doubt because I felt different growing up, and my body was like, to be safe, you need to either hide or not show your true weirdness. So even now as an adult in my 30s, when I want to show something either weird or vulnerable or different or scary for me, my body goes into fight or flight and says, don't do it. It's much safer to not post. It's much safer to not put up the show. It's much safer to not do the podcast, blah, blah, blah. And every creative endeavor I have to talk myself into and talk about it in therapy. You grew up in a conservative area. You said that you were in like these white affluent people. You were brown, you were different, you were gay. How did you deal with getting through the actual like physiological and psychological fears of being different and weird publicly?
It's weird. I don't know if I had necessarily fears of being different publicly. I think I liked being different, but I was angry that no one else was into it. I had a small group of friends who later will eventually come out as non-binary and queer and trans, but back then we were all telling the world we were straight cis people, I don't know. I guess since I had them, I was very confident in who I was when I was weird, and we would make videos. This is before YouTube. We were just making videos for ourselves, on VHS. I was angry that the world was not in a place to accept it. I was mad that something that I knew, like some of the videos we were making, I knew were very funny, but there was no audience for them in the town I was growing up in, because I don't know, the videos didn't have to do with horses or tractors, and so we didn't have the right crowd there. But I've always thought of being different as it's a form of rebellion. Every time I would piss someone off just by existing, just by looking different than they do, it felt good. To this day I still like it. When I do a video in public, if I'm not swearing, if I'm not making a huge scene and people are getting offended by my presence, because obviously my characters look fucking crazy and they draw a lot of attention. But if someone's offended, it's nice because I've given them no other reason than just they don't like something different that they're looking at. If I'm swearing and I'm doing something crazy in public, then sure, I understand why people could get annoyed. But a lot of the times when I just walk into a store looking like my mom character or one of my, people start to, and it's always the very, how do you say, peanut gallery looking people, the ones that are, you find in Marshalls that are just, they see me and it's the moms and dads, come from their cookie cutter life and they see me and a lot of my family, they're the same way. I think I project a lot of my family onto people. My family, a lot of them are pretty conservative, straight-laced, very not me. And so when I see, and I know that if my family were to see someone doing this, they would get offended or bothered by it being in front of them at the store. So I think I do a lot of it. I do to push people's buttons, because at the end of the day, what buttons am I really pushing? You were shopping and some homo came and it wasn't even talking to you. It just you're in the store while this thing is happening. It does feel nice to sort of offend people with my presence, especially when I know that my presence isn't offensive. It's just different.
I'm sure that you probably get then also responses when you post things online that, someone told a very smart comment a friend of mine made recently was about social media, the internet, creating, and a lot of it is it's a economy of attention. And whether you're receiving attention that is positive, that is negative, you're getting a reaction. And so you have this big audience that is bound to love your work because it's brilliant, but there's going to be a part of the audience that is either triggered, pissed, they feel like offended, whatever it is. Were you ever deterred based on those reactions, or have you always been able to be like, no, this is the intended?
Not really. I mean, I think that my intention is pretty clear in most of my videos. I don't think I haven't read a comment where I felt like, oh shit, I feel like I've really done it this time with someone. Thank God, nothing catastrophic like that. But I think most people, they can look at my stuff and see how bombastic it is. And I think a lot of people don't take my work seriously because it's never meant to be taken seriously. It's so chaotic and out there and absurd. And I don't know. I think that that's a very common ground for a lot of us. I think everyone loves absurd comedy, no matter what side of the political spectrum you're on or, what you believe in. I think absurdity is just funny. It's like I say, I didn't make it funny. I just told the joke. So I think that, I don't know. I look at other, forms of comedy and I could see how certain people can get offended with things, but ever since day one, I've always made stuff just for people to tune in and check out. You know what I mean? And life is already so chaotic as it is. I remember thinking as a kid, it would be cool if one day there was a way we could pull out a screen from like our pocket and just watch whatever we want to watch. This is, I was like 8 years old before cell phones were even a thing. And it's so cool that we actually have that now. And so to be able to be one of the creators that gets to make the stuff that someone could pull out and just, you could be having a hard day. You can just lock yourself up somewhere private and watch anything you want to escape. I think that's so much healthier than turning to drugs or alcohol and anytime someone comes up to my table and says, your videos got me through this, or, I'm still here because of the videos, I always thank them for not turning to something worse. These people turn to comedy, which is one of the healthiest things you could turn to when you're feeling bad. So to answer your question, I don't know. I guess I've been very lucky in the sense that the audience gets my work. They get what I'm trying to do, and they get where I'm coming from with it.
Yeah, exactly. They know the place that it's coming from. So I think that's, to me, is the key as a creator, is to know yourself, what the intentions are. And if ever anyone feels a certain way, they usually won't, because it's coming from a place of you're just remarking on the absurdity or you're just telling the joke. But you are a perfect person to do this next segment with, because speaking of the beauty of the internet, I'm going to open up a segment that we need your gay ass opinion on a few topics. So if you're ready, give us some answers for these gay ass opinions. We talked about the beauty of the internet, but Brandon, talk to me. What do you prefer, or what's your take? Twitter porn versus Tumblr porn?
Oh, Tumblr porn, because it's artistic. Remember how artsy it was? There was just so the photos with the flash just off to the side of the camera, where someone's drunk at a party with their underwear down, doing something bad. Now it's Twitter and stuff. They're just throwing a GoPro on the foot of their bed and sticking shit up their ass. I don't know what this is now.
Where's the artistry?
Where's the point of view? Integrity. Exactly.
How do you feel if we pit against each other a glass of wine or a joint?
Oh, joint.
Thank you.
Well, but here's the thing. I think they're both healthy. I mean, they're both bad in excess, but I think they're both healthy. I think the joint is psychologically more healthy than alcohol. I mean, alcohol is literally poison, but then the wine is good for your heart. And I think there's something specific about red wine that really lubes up a convo, it really gets the evening going. So I like them both.
What does a joint do to your conversations?
That makes them deeper. I think when I'm smoking a joint, I'm really good. I like smoking joints with famous people because I think a lot of famous people don't like to get too deep. And if I'm at a convention and I meet a celebrity I like and they happen to be open to smoking weed, I want to like cut through. Like, where do you think we go when we die? Smosh. Right? Like,
I love that. I love like another person would be like, I just want to know like who they're dating or what's the last or the most famous. You're like, what happens after death?
I think it's very telling to get deep with a famous person. I've noticed a lot of the celebrities I've met in my life like to keep it pretty on the surface when they're having a conversation. I was once in a shuttle with it was just me and Giancarlo Esposito from Breaking Bad, and we were going from a hotel to a convention. And I remember thinking I could just ask him whatever I wanted. It was me and him in the car. And I did. I asked him about life, about what he thinks is important, about what I think it's interesting hearing something deep from someone who has achieved so much or who's at a certain point of success in their life. What do they think about the great beyond, or what they're made of, or what the most important thing is in life? So yeah. What was the question? I honestly forget what we were talking about just now.
We started with a glass of wine versus a joint, and then we started from how your conversations go with joints. And then you've smoked with some famous people. Obviously, Giancarlo Esposito is brilliant actor. What an honor to share a shuttle with him. I could only be so lucky.
And so we get schlepped around a lot together. We're actually a lot of the I see the Breaking Bad cast regularly at these cons, and I can tell you that a lot of them smoke weed.
And thank God, I am especially during this weekend in Palm Springs, I plan to go by the pool
get
soon
some meth.
and then get the meth. Is there any other celebrity you've smoked weed with that you care to share?
Yeah, I could share the ones who are open about it. Jinx Monsoon and I think every time we're with each other, there is a joint that is shared between us. Anthony Padilla from Smosh, not Ian, Anthony. Who else do I smoke with that's famous and open about it?
Jinx would be such a good friend to smoke with.
Yes, she is and she always, every time I see her, she seems to have one of these like little joint holders, which I think is so classy. You know what I'm talking about? With the little, yeah. I know Walter Jr. and I, we were at a con recently, and I think we just did nothing but smoke weed the entire weekend. RJ is his name. I don't know.
Those are all great. I would never make you dive too deep into the celebrity.
I really want to smoke weed with an interesting business founder. Like a few years ago, I had dinner with the person who she founded Panda Express, and I keep thinking back to, I'm like, she would be interesting to get high with.
I'm sure.
Eat her food.
Orange chicken, bitch. Yeah. I would I would want to smoke weed with Barbara Corcoran.
I love her, the realtor lady from the Shark show.
Can you imagine? She's already kooky without marijuana. Let's do our next opinion question. Brandon, how do you feel if you had a choice between a fancy breakfast or a gay brunch?
Oh, gay brunch.
Always and
breakfast,
forever.
I don't care what time breakfast is, it's too early. Also, I don't eat breakfast. I like coffee. I don't get hungry until like lunchtime. So
I love
I'm
that.
I'm not gonna force calories down my gullet and be just because I have to eat because it's breakfast time.
How do you feel about calling your pets fur babies?
Oh, I think there's a problem with that.
Yeah,
that's not because a baby is cute in a baby way, and a pet is cute in a pet way. If your baby comes out covered in fur, then that's a pet baby. But or if your pet comes out slick and squishy, that's a pet baby. But when I think of pet baby, I think of a fucking furless koala. Oh, wait, fur baby. That's what you said, fur baby. Yeah, I think of like a Furby with no fur. I don't know.
Wait,
It's
that's let's do a follow-up question. People who have those Siamese cats, is that what they are? The cats that have no hair.
yeah, the nude cats. But there's something real perverted about those things.
Why do you have that cat?
I know. And have you felt one of them? There's something wrong with its skin.
I choose not to.
Yeah.
Okay, final question because I don't know. These are all fun. Joker 2 bombing at the box office.
I heard about that. Oh my god. I really like the Joker too. I hope
I saw it. I
was
saw
it good?
it.
Was it true what they're saying?
Well, what they're saying is that the movie is a fuck you to fans of fans of Joker. And
Why would you do that?
exactly. So I find that to be an interesting take. However, the funniest thing that I have found through the whole press cycle of it is there were people trying to decode at Venice Film Festival when they were doing the applause after they showed the movie. Joaquin Phoenix and Gaga are standing next to each other, and people are trying to lip read what Joaquin Phoenix is saying to Gaga, and people think that he is saying it's terrible, something about how the movie is bad, and Gaga's going, don't say that, don't say that. And then another press junket where they're being interviewed, and they're like, so did the movie come out the way that you wanted it to? And Gaga and Joaquin look at each other and they start laughing, and then someone posted that and said, oh, this is why this press is so interesting. It's because they hate the movie. So I'm thinking similarly to like what it would be like to smoke weed with Jinx Monsoon, what it would be like to smoke weed with you, whatever. I'm curious about being in a room with just Gaga and Joaquin talking about how they feel about it. This being said, my expectations were basement level because I'd heard of this buzz. So when I saw it, I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I'm also a gay man who likes musical theater, and they sing a lot of the standard American songbook. And so I did not hate that. But do I think it was like a Joker film? No. Were my expectations surpassed? Yes, because they were in hell.
Okay, good to know. I don't know if I have. I don't know. I saw what Harley Quinn looked like. It's just Lady Gaga with some makeup. I was hoping for fucking Margot Robbie set the fucking bar. And you're giving us now, I haven't seen the movie. Lady Gaga's an amazing actor, but I saw the character design. I need to be immersed with what the characters look like, act like, and I'm just seeing. It looks like they gave Lady Gaga a joint and said, hey, "Put on some of this eyeliner and go be dark." And it's just
there is a part. This is not a spoiler. It's just she clearly is trying to sing in her first songs in the movie, like the first time she sings, really making her voice more of a pedestrian, more of a every person, where it's like straining to sing. And then at one point there's a switch you can tell, and Gaga goes full Gaga, and you literally hear in one of the songs, wow.
Oh my god, yeah, she's got that famous wow.
And I'm like, that's Gaga, bitch.
Yeah,
Gaga is Harley.
They know what people came for. I don't know. It doesn't strike me as like a film that I'm not. Wicked, I think, looks a lot more, and I'm not even a Wicked fan. I've never seen it, but I'm much more of I like the macabre and the dark. So for Wicked to look more interesting than the Joker to me, that's really saying something. But
well, it's funny you say that because I just did a episode on the Patreon where I talk about how we just got our tickets to Wicked the second they went on sale, because we are those people, and we're going to be seeing it the day before Thanksgiving on that Wednesday. And I posted, someone tweeted like, people seeing that movie, if you sing along, you're done. It's over. Like we know that your Mima thinks you have a good voice, but when you see Wicked in theaters, we're leaving it to Cynthia and Ari.
Cynthia and Ari. Wait, Cynthia and Ari. Who? I don't know who
Ariana
that is.
Grande and Cynthia Erivo.
Oh. I'm like,
Don't you hate it when gay people call people? That's like when people call Sandra Bullock Sandy. That's like when people call Felicity Huffman Flicka. That's like I don't know Ariana Grande, and yet, Ari.
Ari. Yeah, it's like your best friends. Yeah, Ari's like, no one calls me that. No, I'm really sad about Joker. I'm glad we got Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice felt weirdly. I don't think there was one queer person in that movie, and yet every character felt pretty queer.
I think Willem Dafoe is an honorary queer person.
I think Willem Dafoe is one of possibly the best ally. I don't even know if he's an ally, but I'm just assuming I'm headcanoning him as.
He has to be. There's no way with that jawline.
With that jawline.
that's an ally.
Yeah, that's an ally's jaw if I ever saw one. Yeah, what are you most excited about that's coming that is yet to come out this year?
Besides the Wicked movie, I have movie blindness. I could not tell you a single thing. I mean, what else is there? I think that
Have you seen Agatha?
no, but I do love Catherine Hahn as the character actress she is.
I am very inspired by anyone who's a comedic relief in something getting a spinoff, because comedic reliefs are never taken, seriously. And it's like another Better Call Saul. I was really inspired when Better Call Saul happened because, like, as a comic actor, it's like, oh, people do like these kind of characters. And so to see the same thing happen with Catherine Hahn is really inspiring as well.
Can I ask you that then? Because I like obviously am so in awe of your career and your creations, but I love to manifest in this podcast. So what are you looking forward if we were to see if maybe one of your characters got a spin-off? Is there like a dream scenario of a project that you want to manifest?
Yeah, a lot of my friends are getting Netflix shows, Hulu shows, FX shows. It's like, just if any of these, gave me this opportunity, I have a million ideas. I've been spending years conceptualizing what, a Netflix movie would look like versus like a Netflix, 8-episode limited release. I'm hot with ideas, and for every idea I have, there's I'm about to start. I was to start naming names. I for every idea I have, there's someone else who does what I do who gets a show, and I'm like, damn it, I could have fucking done something with that budget.
Yeah.
Every time I hear someone dropping a lot of money on something too, by the way, I get so pissed, especially if it's on something stupid. Like I heard my friend bought a $50,000 handbag. I'm like, that could have been a movie. That could have been a movie, and you're wearing it sometimes on your wrist at special events. I don't know. I would love just I would only do something major if the right platform came along. There's a lot of streaming services that are very small that want to do something, and I would love to do something on a bigger one. But honestly, where I'm at right now is I'm very lucky. I get to play weird characters that the internet, thank God, they love. I don't know if I would want to do a different version of this full time, because this version I get to have total creative control with my characters. I get to make whatever I want, and I only have to abide by my fans and the YouTube guidelines. And so it's nice not having this entity like a production company or network who has to have a group of people who aren't creative judging what I say, limiting, because I've been in that chair before too, where you make a show with a big I don't know. I mean, honestly, playing characters and writing for them, any form of that, I'm a fan of.
I want to ask, do you consider yourself a good business person? Because I find that that's a hard thing about being a creator, is that you have to have the creative brain, and you have to be able to find a platform and a way to did you have to teach yourself how to build?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's interesting you mentioned that, because every person who becomes successful in entertainment has to be a business person at some point. Like you're running a company, you have people that work for you, whether it's an assistant, a camera crew, whoever. My friend Vivian Madrano, who created Hell of a Boss and Has Been Hotel, she got into this for the same reason I did, and that is because she has characters that she is passionate about telling their stories. Next thing you know, you're having to find an HR department, and you have employees that you have to, facilitate, and you have this whole team of people that now you're running a company. We didn't get into this to run a business. There's a whole other field that we could have studied in college to run a business if we were interested in business management. But yet here we are having to do it. So it is tough, but I always tell people it's not enough to just be talented. I'm not saying I'm talented, but I'm just saying, like, success it's just not enough to be good at something. You have to be able to be a people person and run a company, run a business. You have to make choices that are really tough. And there's opportunities that present themselves. So just like a CEO, you have to think, should I take this deal? Or if I don't take it, will I be missing out on something big? Could this affect the people that work for me if I make the wrong choice? It is scary, and it's also scary because with most businesses you have some form of there's some form of consistency, right? Like a lot of people in my family work for construction, and they have for 20 years, because construction's never going to go away. You're always going to be building stuff, right? There's with acting, in this industry, you're only as desirable as the people make you. If in entertainment, if people aren't interested in you, the opportunities aren't there. And some of the biggest names, have fallen under, and, vice versa. And so basically, like, working in entertainment is a very unpredictable ocean. And then on top of that, you're in charge of all these people that work for you. So it is kind of scary, because you'll have years that are dry, and you'll have years that are amazing and lucrative. And yet, no matter the weather, you're responsible for the livelihood of the people that work for you. And so that's very stressful, and not why I got into this business at all. But it's just part of it.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I've come across with anything, especially podcast related. It's like, I don't know how, like, I got an email about an ad situation about having to figure out how to, like, implement a certain something. And I said to my husband, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing, but I just have had to learn and figure out what it means and how to build and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it is a necessary evil of, like, if this is the dream, then you have to figure it out. But I think it's, again, empowering to know that you can rely on yourself, because if you put the power in other people's hands, that gives you no agency. And so I think it's really incredible what you've done. But I have to say, Brandon, we sadly have to get towards the end of this interview, if you can believe it. So I'm going to ask you the final podcast question, which is, Brandon Rogers, if the world was ending, you could only save one character actress, who would you save?
Probably Tracy Ullman. Gun to my head.
Brilliant.
No. Maybe Amy Sedaris. No,
Brilliant.
God, the two of them are hard to pick. One of those bitches is coming with me.
Tracy Ullman will sit on your shoulders. Amy Sedaris in your arms.
Oh, that would be nice. We'd be like a little totem pole of comedy. But I love the two of them.
Well, they're perfectly wacky and weird, just like you. I think that's a perfect answer.
Thank you. That's a big compliment. Being compared to either one of those legends is a massive compliment.
Well, I think the thing that I find similar is what they're both so good at, especially Tracy Ullman, with, like, the crazy difference of her characters, and then to see the, like, unabashed commitment to the role. I think
it's nice to see someone lose themselves in a role and not see, oh, it's this person playing this character, this person. When you see the character before the actor, I love it when actors can lose themselves in a role like that. So
I'm just picturing my favorite Tracy Ullman clips of, like, what is the one where they they open the door and she's just, like, in a pile of, like, in a hoarder's room in a pile of clothes. There's, like, there are so many, and then Amy Sedaris. If we full circle to Cola Scola, At Home with Amy Sedaris, these are all careers also that I think are incredible. Like, and I see you on this journey. I aspire to do gay wackadoo things like them. And gosh, Brandon, you have been such a great guest. I am so grateful you've come on this Gay Ass podcast. And
thank you for having me.
I'm truly inspired by you. Can you tell the listeners where to follow you and what to look out for from you?
I just say any search bar you can find, just type in Brandon Rogers. I have some sort of presence on hopefully whatever site you're on, especially OnlyFans. I would love to see if there's anything of me on there.
You and a GoPro on your bed.
On my bed, sitting on shit. Oh my God, yeah. Well, I found out that my feet have a wiki. I'm a 7 point something on Wiki Feet.
You know, I'm not a foot person, but I would imagine your feet are delicious and you deserve a 9.
I've heard the bottoms of them are where the money's at.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for bearing your soul in all ways. And
thank you,
Brandon,
and
it's been a true treat.
Me.
It's you're a dream. Bye, gay ass listeners. Stay gay.
Y'all, thanks for listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, come on back next week where one of my heroes is our gay ass guest. And if you want more gay assery, head to the Patreon at patreon.com/gayasspodcast for bonus eps there. I would love if you send me a DM or tag us on Instagram to help spread the gay ass gospel. We'll see you next week. Bye. You've been listening to That's a Gay Ass Podcast, hosted by me, Eric Williams. If you want to see and hear more, make sure you subscribe to us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or Patreon at Gay Ass Podcast. That's a Gay Ass Podcast is executive produced by Eric Williams and produced by Nathanael McClure. We'll see you next week.